You know, making a video and talking is like the craziest thing ever. And like having to find a space to do it where you're like uninterrupted. It's interesting, you know. But anyways, so today is day 2 of really seriously tracking, why tracking, right? So I decided I wanted to track because I wanted to see what the calories in look like versus a couple things. So the first thing being what my watch is saying, you know, because like if you have any of these smart watches or if you have like Fitbit, you know, like I just got a G-Shock Move. If you're anything like me, and this is pretty well known, the calorie burn on it is constantly out of whack. But the calorie burn on it is not that far off from what you would get if you put your stats into like TDE calculator and you add your steps. It actually does kind of get pretty close, you know? It's like we're talking about a very small margin off, and that margin never seems to reflect the actual weight loss and the calories in, right? If that's been my experience for 4 years. You know, I've been doing this since 2021, day in, day out, and that's kind of the holy grail for me. Has been, you know, why is it that if you're anything like me, why is it that my calories don't ever seem to match up with what all of this stuff's saying? And there's like a whole range of these things. You know, one hand it's like if you watch like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook Reels, these kind of YouTube short, it'll be like, you know, you take your goal weight, multiply it by 12, and this gives you a rough starting number. It's like, okay, so I'm gonna take my goal weight, I'm gonna multiply it by 12, and that's the calories I'm gonna eat. And it don't work, right? You know, or it works a little bit, it doesn't quite. And this was something I was keying off on a lot in my first video, that the missing piece seems to always be that even if for a brief period, my metabolism does reflect these kind of universal standards for dieting, it doesn't last. You know, there's the metabolic adaptation or whatever. But for me, it seems to be rapid, like rapidly my BMR is dropping over the course of 2 weeks, not, you know, 12 to 16 like Grok would tell you. So, you know, this is something I've been looking for a long time. And now I'm gonna relate that to my experience with the sugar diet. So yesterday, I came out of the weekend. I expressed this yesterday that I had lunch with some friends on Friday. I had Mother's Day brunch with my wife, and I behaved myself in terms of eating, right? Like I was able to do like Cole was saying yesterday, just eat fucking normal. Like I was eating normal. I had normal portions. I front loaded the day with some activity and sugar, and I felt like I was firing going into the meals. And it reflected on the scale. You know, I went into the weekend and out of the weekend right at 200. And for me, this is a big win. We're talking about 3 weeks in a row I have kept my weight consistent. And I had been experiencing up until, you know, 2 weeks ago that it was increasing. And the last 2 weekends, I mean, I was fighting my ass off. I was doing like 2 hours of cardio and crazy low calories to keep it at this slow gaining phase. This past week, messing around with the sugar diet was just a game changer. I mean, I got a little Excel sheet. At some point, I'll figure out how to put graphics in with these videos. And, you know, I'm a good calorie counter. I'm a good tracker. And I was smashing over 3,000 calories, whether it was mixed meals or like on Saturday, I did just, you know, about 40 hours of fruit fasting. And my weight was very constant. It fluctuated between 198 and 200 all weekend. I came into the week ready to start a full-fledged 5-day experiment, you know, and see where this is really hitting for. So yesterday morning I weighed in at 201.8. I had 3,300 calories yesterday. I had 12,000 steps, and I did legs at the gym. My energy was phenomenal. Phenomenal. I mean, the whole day I didn't need to recaffeinate. I had my morning pre-workout, hit the gym, and the rest of the day was smooth sailing until I got home and caught a little hour nap. Yesterday I had kiwis, honey, apples, figs, dates, grapes. At night I had one mixed meal that was roasted broccoli I had a ribeye steak that I trimmed all the fat off of. I'm not particularly fat averse. I feel okay eating a couple grams of fat. I could certainly see that if I was still 350 pounds, that I would totally abandon fat for a large percentage of the week and not only focus on 100% being lean with my protein, but even mitigating what cooking oils I'm using and dialing it back as much as I possibly could. I'm very confident with my weight. I'm okay with it. And a little bit of fat, I'm sure, is really good for my hormones. And I've heard Mark Bell talk about some of that as well. I remember he was saying just a couple of days ago that he was talking to Stan Efferding about it, and Stan was suggesting to keep the fats at a certain point, So yeah, I mean, I had all this food, and I woke up this morning, and I went yesterday, I'm like down a pound, about 0.8, like flat 200 right now. And I feel great. I only had 5 hours of sleep because every other Monday I have a men's group I attend. And I got 5 hours of sleep. Hit a real low volume back and bicep workout. Ran 2 miles at like 4.5 miles per hour on the tread. And I stretched out, got ready for work. And that's where I'm at now. My only thoughts for the day are really about this interesting aspect of this diet for me is that I'm experiencing, I think it's like something like, it's really unique nutrient partitioning. And what I mean by that is that, like, if you've ever messed around with berberine, it's pretty common for people to use berberine around carb refeeds because it can like mitigate some of the carbohydrate water retention, and it can kind of shuttle the carbs, I believe, into muscle glycogen rather than fat storage, because it's often impaired in these glucose disposal agents that companies sell for helping bodybuilders with their cheat meals. I experience with this super high carb diet the same effects where, like, yesterday I had a high calorie day, several hundred grams of carbs, and I don't have the water weight retention. You know what I mean? I just don't have it. Like, for those of you like me that experimented with low carb diets, carnivore diet, you know that, like, when your glycogen is depleted, you're like at least like 5 pounds lighter. So in my head, like, I have that knowledge, and I'm thinking to myself that, like, dang, right now I'm killing it. I'm like, if I got on the scale with my normal diet, I'm like 195 right now, and having no issues with, I'm not struggling about food. I'm eating a ton of food. Yesterday I had a full sugar cream soda with pure cane sugar. I had 16 ounces of orange juice. It's awesome. It's amazing. And I've been talking about it with people, and a lot of you guys in the comments and many of people in this space that are making these videos have been relating the same idea, which is that when you talk to your friends or coworkers about it, because deep down inside, everyone just like wants to lose 5 pounds at least. That's what they say, right? 5 pounds. But if they really started shedding off the weight, they go for 10, maybe 15. And you tell them, like, from when you wake up till, you get home, you just got to eat fruit. Now, they're already, like, eating maybe some fruit. They're already having 2 sodas. They're already having an apple juice. They're already, whatever, man. They're already cramming sugar down. But then the minute you frame it as any kind of restriction, right? Like, that there has to be a compromise, it's like, nah, that ain't gonna work for me. You know, and I've heard this in a million different flavors, right? Like, you gotta lower the carbs, you gotta cut out bread. Yeah, it just ain't for me. You gotta cut out dietary fat. Yeah, that just ain't for me. You gotta do 16-hour fasts where you're not eating at all. That ain't working for me. Right? You know, whatever it is, right? It's not gonna work for them, it's not viable, it's not going to work for them. And then you get to this, right? A sugar diet where you're like, no, you can have orange juice, a couple of Sour Patch Kids, a bunch of grapes and watermelon. And then when you feel peckish later in the day, you can have more fruit, you can have more juice, you can have a smoothie, you can have these things. All you have to do is indulge your sweet tooth on some good sugar. And then when you go home, you can have a clean meal. And you can even maybe have, like, you know, a yogurt bowl or some sugar-free pudding. You know, there's options. There's plenty of options. You can have a couple Yasso bars. You can have a couple of those ice cream mochi balls. You can have a pint of Nicks. You can have these things. You can fit it in. But it's just not for me. You know, like, this is the idea, and it's a tough stigma, but if you want to lose weight, there's always got to be something that's got to go. Yeah, so this week I'm really diving into doing 5 days of strict tracking. My goal is to eat in a surplus. I want to eat in a surplus versus the 2,200 calories that TDEE calculator says I'm supposed to maintain 200 pounds. And I want to see what it's hitting for come Friday. Today into tomorrow, I'm doing just a sugar fast. I noticed last week that when I did the 40-hour sugar fast, that my performance at the gym did not decline at all. I'm not scared of losing muscle. I'm just not scared of it. I'm sure this is, like, gonna work out, because it's like when you're cutting fat, when you're cutting calories, when you're eating in like these normal, like, bodybuilding style cuts, your performance goes down, your output goes down. And so you're training a little less, you're walking a little less, you're more fatigued, you're that normal that normal non-exercise activity, whatever, thermogenic, whatever, dude, who cares? That seems to suffer quite a bit, especially the deeper you get into a cut. Whereas with this, I'm slamming weights. You know, I'm this morning I felt just like compelled to throw a couple decimal points of resistance into the treadmill and just chug it, man, and go for it. So yeah, we'll see. I will keep checking in. I will keep eating in the maintenance. I will keep eating over 25 to 3,000 calories. And yeah, let's take it from there. Have a good day, guys.